Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today is Marc Noyce, and he's an urban food specialist, and the topic we'll be discussing is the joys and benefits of creating your own urban garden. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. So Marc, what are the joys and benefits of creating your own urban garden?
The joys of urban gardening are multiple. There are so many joys of urban gardening, which include your own nutrition, your mental health, contacting and being in contact with your friends and reconnecting with your family that you haven't seen, your long lost aunt that you haven't seen for a while. Urban gardening just gives you that excuse to knock on the door and say, hey, I've got some food. Would you like to share a meal with me? I grew this in my own garden. And that's one of the things about being able to give, being able to look after something, looking after your own nutrition, looking after your friends and family. And that's really what the joys of urban farming is about. It's also about knowing where my food comes from. You know, growing your own food, you know what went into it, you watched it grow, you watched it mature, and then you know exactly where that food comes from. And not only that, it's fun. It is just fun to come home and see your garden. Like sometimes I talk to my plants. After a long day, I go out there and I say, hey plants, how you going? And they seem happy to see me because if you give them the right things in terms of sunlight, water, food, they look after themselves. So not only can we have individuals growing food, we can actually have communities growing food. And I get involved in schools, I get involved in community gardens, and where from nothing a community comes together, and sometimes people are quite isolated and they don't have any friends, they don't have any family nearby, and they're living in a very small space. So to be able to come to a urban farm and meet people, share food and share stories of how to grow food and tips and tricks. Schools are absolutely fantastic mechanisms to get young people into urban farming. Learning from the ground up how to look after yourself, how to look after others, from growing your own food at home and getting in contact with your food and learning about where your food comes from is just setting up a whole next level, next generation of urban farmers to be self-sufficient.
Marc, I live in a small urban environment. How can I overcome some of those challenges in creating my garden?
In cities, we live in a concrete jungle. Sometimes there's not a lot of space, sometimes there's not a lot of light, and we're busy too. So sometimes we don't have a lot of time to give to our plants. So these are real challenges. Wind's a really big problem in urban environments. It can get very windy. There are stray pets, there are bugs, there are things that want to eat all our produce. It seems like everything's against us in an urban environment. But these challenges can be overcome when you have the right technology, when you have the right approach, when you get your nutrition right for your plants, when you get the watering right, and if you can get your plants to self-water, if you can get your compost, you can close your nutrient loop by composting your own green waste at home, turning that into a resource for plants to grow, and closing our nutrient loop is really a great way of being self-sufficient and overcoming these challenges that cities have where our food waste is a one-way street. We can turn that around. Cities also have abundant stormwater or rainwater runoff, so we have an abundance of water, we have an abundance of nutrition in terms of food waste. We can turn those around in an urban environment to grow healthy, nutritious food, and we can do it in really small spaces.
What are some top tricks and tricks for our audience to create their own urban gardens?
It depends on what you're going to grow. So if you want to grow tomatoes, for example, they need a lot of sunlight. They need like up to 10 hours of sunlight a day. If you want to grow lettuce and herbs, well, some of these plants can survive and thrive, if you like, on only 4 hours of sunlight. So it really depends on where your balcony's placed, where your sunlight comes in, and what you want to grow. So knowing a little bit about the types of plants you want to grow really helps set up where you need to put them, helps set up your urban farm in terms of what produce you're going to get out, and you can grow a lot of food in a very small space. In some cases you can grow up to 25 kilos worth of food in just 1 square metre, which is amazing. So if you think about what an average person would consume in Australia, and that's 75 kilos of vegetables per annum. We should eat 150, but only 5% of Australians get to 150 kilograms of food, vegetable matter per annum. So we can get our average food consumption in only 3 square metres, which is amazing. So a tip would be find a space that's relatively sunny. Try to protect your plants from the wind as much as possible with either netting, and get yourself a wicking garden bed. Now, if you don't know a wicking garden bed, if you've ever put a dishcloth into the water, you see the water rise up out of the water up the dishcloth. Well, that's wicking. That is capillary action. So that's what draws water up from a water reservoir. And a wicking garden bed allows you to have a self-watering pot plant that has a water reservoir that is always making water available to the plants. And so if a plant has access to water whenever it needs it, it's going to be optimal, it's going to reach its full potential, and you're going to have a healthier garden every single time. Get the other things right in terms of soil nutrition, which is a high quality compost, something very fibrous to help draw that water up out of your wicking garden bed or your self-watering pot plant, and your plant will be as healthy as it possibly can. Get the right nutrition into the compost, and it'll have all the trace elements that it needs. So a good quality potting mix is essential. You can make your own potting mix by composting at home, taking your green waste and turning that into a nutritious source of food for your plants. And technology's come a long way with wicking garden beds these days. So you can have free draining and wicking in some of these systems, which is optimal.
Thanks, Marc. That's such good, useful information. If you'd like to know more about Marc Noyce and the benefits of creating your own urban garden bed, please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll have another interesting guest with another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, barbecue cook and healthy food advocate Sarah Kiryshin will be talking about healthy food for today's busy people. Welcome back to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, and we're here again with Sarah Kiryshin, barbecue cook and healthy food advocate, continuing our discussions regarding healthy food for today's busy people. And Sarah has turned up with this incredible feast. So please explain yourself, Sarah.
Alrighty, so this is one of my favourite topics. As we know, I am a barbecue lover and a busy person, okay? So for me, I need to make sure that everything ticks a box for me, right? So it has to be delicious, it has to be easy, and it has to be quite kind of straightforward to cook as well. So one of my favourite things to do on a Sunday afternoon is rummage through my crisper, have a look at all the veggies in there and think, great, what can I barbecue? What can I cook up today that will return favours for future Sarah? So I think about my week and I go, you know what? I'm going to get a lot of cooking out of the way now, get it all done, and then I've got some variety, some amazing healthy food. And because we're cooking on the barbecue, I get to have that char, beautiful flavour that is indescribable and unmatched, and I get to enjoy that throughout the week, which is wonderful.
So I see you've got broccoli, carrots, capsicum. Is it possible to switch that out and substitute it with something else?
Yes, absolutely. So what I do have is for what kind of inspired this is I thought to myself, okay, what can I do with this food? So by cooking up the carrots, the capsicum, the broccoli, the eggplant, and then I've got a few proteins here. So I thought to myself, okay, great, I'm going to marinate the beef in some amazing soy sauce to give a bit of an Asian inspiration. Pairing that with some carrots and broccoli and the eggplant, it just makes this beautiful harmony of flavours. So out of this, I'll be making like a, kind of a Thai beef salad situation, a little bit of cherry tomatoes to add in some pop of freshness and some salad leaves. Boom. I've organised myself a delicious salad there that's going to obviously serve me tomorrow or the next day. So, and with the chicken, I can repurpose this chicken. Most of the time we'll just eat it straight off the skewer because it's so delicious and it's hard to contain ourselves. But what we can do is we can turn that into a salad. We can turn it into chicken wraps. You can slice the chicken finely, maybe even make some rice paper rolls out of it down the track as well. In terms of substitutions, what we can do is we could easily turn this into a vegetarian feast or even a vegan feast. So if we simply sub out or swap out the beef and chicken, we can add in some tofu. So what I would do with this is I would add some tofu in. Automatically it's a vegan dish or a vegan platter if we will. So I would grill the tofu. Of course we've got our broccoli and our carrots here. Put that in a rice bowl and you have yourself the most amazing charred, barbecued, crispy tofu. You've got a delicious rice bowl. It's filling, it's nourishing, and it's super, super easy. Alternatively, what you can do is you can grill some halloumi. One of my favourite things to do on the barbecue is to grill halloumi. That's a vegetarian option for us, of course. And again, it gives us quite a few options down the track. One of the things that I love to do with my grilled capsicum is slice it into thin slices, then pop it in a marinade of some olive oil and some lemon juice, a little bit of salt, maybe some oregano or some other fresh herbs. Then you've got yourself some marinated capsicum. You can put that on pretty much anything, sandwiches, wraps. Something I like to do is chop it up quite finely and make a little bruschetta mix out of it. The flavours that it infuses down the track, you're just doing future you a favour.
I'm interested in flavour and I would like to know how you infuse flavour into all the separate ingredients so they don't all taste like the one barbecue.
Alrighty, so this is a really, really good topic and one that I'm also very, very passionate about. So for example, with the eggplant here, what I did is I made up a little honey soy dressing. So while it's on the grill, I'm going to be basting that in a honey soy dressing. And then I turn it and it infuses it even more. It gets that little bit of char, I baste it again. And so we're kind of locking in that one flavour profile to that one element of the dish. And so with the broccoli, for example, that's already got an amazing char on it. So we think, okay, what can we do to enhance the flavour of broccoli? I personally love a little bit of butter, not too much, a little bit of butter and some salt. Broccoli is actually one of those vegetables that it tastes, when it's cooked right, it tastes so incredible. It's got this beautiful nutty flavour. So I love, when it comes to carrots, I absolutely love to put butter, honey and caraway seeds. For me, it is a match made in heaven. I have one dish that I do. I will char grill some carrots, pop it in the fridge for later, and then make sure I've put some honey, butter and caraway seeds on it. And then you can pop it on a little bit of whipped feta or any kind, honestly, anything, because it tastes so good. But on some whipped feta, it is magnificent.
Sarah, if you could give us your top barbecue tips, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so number one is to make sure that you have got your barbecue ready. Some people get a little bit intimidated because they think it's going to take so long to fire up a barbecue. For me, we're talking an hour of my day to cook all of this food. So when I'm doing a really big cook that involves a number of different ingredients, I do like to set up a bit of a production line. So what I would do is I'll just prep all my veggies, cut them up, put them separately on a large plate or in some containers. Then I'll make sure my barbie is extra hot. start cooking. When I start cooking, I love to ensure that I'm injecting even more flavour into it because I just love the barbecue flavour so much. So then I will use some wood chips. I'll pop some smoking chips on the charcoal just before I start cooking the food, and that starts to smoke up and will bring the most incredible flavour into this food. And you can also alternate the timings of when you're putting things on as well. So maybe you won't want a hickory smoke flavour in the carrots, for example. So what I would do is cook the carrots first, and then I'll put my wood chips on to get a different flavour in the different foods.
Thank you so much, Sarah. If you want more information about Sarah and barbecue cooking and preparing healthy meals for the rest of the week, go to Sarah's webpage on our website at healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and stay tuned. We'll see you after the break with another terrific guest and interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, psychic medium and author Anthony Kilner will be talking about the differences between physical and metaphysical life experiences. Welcome back. Our next guest, Anthony Kilner, is a psychic medium and author, and the topic we'll be discussing is what are the differences between physical and metaphysical life experiences. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks for having me here again.
So what is the difference between the two?
Wow, this has got to be my all-time favourite topic. We talk about physical and metaphysical. Physical is objective, it is what it is. You got a pain in your knee, you got a pain in your knee. The metaphysical or the subjective interpretation of what that pain represents, now that becomes more of a challenge and a bit of fun because it'll be subjective, requiring interpretation, so much like a dream. So if we use the left knee as the example, the pain in the knee, you've got a pain, you've bruised it, you've done something, damaged it, it's sore, and that's what it is. You go and see your doctor and you get it fixed. However, if you took notice of it and how it happened, then that's going to give you an understanding that maybe things from your past, you're not being very flexible about letting go, and so the knee represents flexibility in your direction, so that then means you're not being flexible in your direction because past things are holding you back. And the knock or the bruise or the damage, as a result of taking note of that, is to make you really aware of that interpretation. If it was the right knee though, and you had the same pain and the same, oh my gosh, I've got a pain in my knee, what's that? It's about not being flexible moving forward. And while they sound very similar, one is the past holding you back, one is a fear stopping you from moving forward, so you're not being as flexible in your direction as possible. So that interpretation applies to your whole physical body. All right, so if we look at the hand, for example, the left is past, the little finger represents children, the ring finger, relationships, the index finger, sexuality, then we have our pointer, that is you controlling the situation, thumb represents you're under the thumb. So if you get a pain in your thumb and you might think, oh, why am I getting that? And it's on the left side, you might feel that you're being put under the thumb by someone who's trying to control you. All right? Now, as we're sitting here, we can hear it, audience might not, is there's a siren going off in the background. So when we're talking about things and you notice the siren going off, then that's a warning sign for you to be more aware of what's happening around you, to maybe not say what you're about to say, those sorts of things. So the universe actually helps create all these messages that are subjective or metaphysical, subjective, and require interpretation. And it all's based around what you do. So then we have, like I said, eyes represent how you see. So left eye is how you see the past, right eye is how you see the future. All right? When you get stressed, most people carry stress and burdens in our shoulders. Feeling a pain in the middle of your back is like somebody stabbing you in the back, and you might get that while you're thinking of somebody, and you'll just go, oh wow, that pain feels really intense, and that's how it comes across. So there's all these different things from the universe. Your house represents things, so you know, a blocked toilet is, you know, you have to get a plumber in to fix it. It could then also represent that you're holding on to too much of your rubbish and you need somebody to help you to let it go.
What can we learn from our everyday life experiences?
Best thing in understanding all of this is don't go looking for it. Everyday experiences occur because the universe is trying to get us messages, right? Different from dreams. The universe is providing that. And so if we notice something, we interpret it. The multitude of experiences, you can put it out there, and I did this when I was living in India. It was every morning I would say to the spirit world and to the universe, as part of my morning ritual, okay, so give me a sign as I walk along my path on the side of the hill that what happens there will mean or say make sense of what my day is going to be like. And so some days I'd walk out and there'd be a dog sitting there and it'd come up and have a pat, and the dog represents loyalty. Right? The colours of the dog would then be, if it was black and white, it'd be like finding balance in loyalty. Right? Other days there'd be a butterfly come out of nowhere and just sort of either land on me or hover in front of my face. And again, that means there's transition occurring in that day. Walk out and there's a cow blocking the path. Now, in the Indian culture, cows are sacred. So then there's a sacredness to my journey, and I have to maybe find a way around that without disturbing it, but learn more. So all those things come into play. And in our daily lives, problems with cars. So, you get a flat tyre, and say it's a flat tyre on the right rear, and it's a front wheel drive car. All right, so we're mashing it all up because, ex-mechanic, I can talk about these quite well. Most people understand a car. So right rear wheel, it's not a drive wheel, so there's something that's stopping you for a moment, that's dragging you back, right, to stop in your direction and think about where you're going and what you're doing. And that then, you fix the tyre and you get moving again, but you need that breather to understand what's happening in that space. Why can't you move forward? And that's what the universe provides. And water leaks are the same. Water represents emotions. So if you've got a water leak in your car and it's a radiator, there's something explosive happening. There's frustration, there's anger, there's hot, there's steam. All those things come into it. So if you interpret it, you might say, well, in your direction, what's stopping you from living a happy life and being nice and relaxed and calm in your direction? Why are you getting frustrated and angry and hot under the collar, so to speak? So all of those things are important, and the universe provides a plethora of that. So the understanding is to embrace it in your everyday life, is to just learn and take note of what's actually happening in that space. What does it mean? Absorb it and just move on.
Do you have any suggestions for our viewers in their own journey in discovering the difference in their own lives with the physical and metaphysical?
Yeah, my big suggestion first off is journal. Write everything down. So if it grabs your attention, write it down. It's super important, because then you don't have to think about it later, you can just interpret it. A good dream interpretation book is good as well, because interpretations for dream and subjective are very similar. Also, finding someone that can help you to interpret it if you're not sure. And that's really important. And I find sitting circle, which is, the spiritual aspect of learning all of this stuff, your body doesn't lie. Your body tells you what's going on. You've just got to pay attention to it. In a good circle, you'll learn that as well.
Thanks, Anthony. That's such rich information. If you'd like to know more about Anthony Kilner and the difference between the physical and the metaphysical life experience, please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And that's all for us today, and we'll say bye-bye for now and see you next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.